Good morning, students. So, today we will discuss the class 9 second chapter, history second chapter, the Vedic period. So, today in this video, we will discuss some of the important topics. So, big chapter, so that is by we will discuss in two classes this chapter, half today and half in next class. So first we will discuss introduction, then sources, then society. So start with the introduction, which the scholars and the historians refer to the period when the Aryans first settled in India as the early Vedic period. And it's between 1500 to 1000 BC. But between 1000 BC to 500 BC, 1000 to 500 BC, when the iron had been or had came to be used, it is believed that the Aryans followed the course of the river and settled in the river valley, and then the iron tool helped them to bring vast lands under their control under the agricultural activities, and gradually they settled or they led a settled lifestyle. Earlier, we know that the Aryans were nomadic people. They moved from one place to another place for searching food and shelter. So it was believed that the Aryans were actually came from Central Asia. First, they entered in India through Khyber Pass in Afghanistan, and then they settled in Sapta Sindhu, and then during later Vedic period, they settled in Gangetic Basin. Now, we will discuss the sources. There are two types of sources which provide us the information about the Aryans as well as the Vedic period. One is literary sources and another the archaeological sources. So in literary sources we will discuss the Vedas and the epics. These two are the main literary source. So before we will discuss this, the Vedic period is divided into two periods. One is early Vedic period between 1500 BC to 1000 BC, and the early Vedic period is also called the Rig Vedic period. But why? Why early Vedic period is called Rig Vedic period? Because because it was believed that Rig Veda was composed between 1500 to 1000 BC. Next, from 1000 to 500 BC, it was considered the later Vedic period. And later Vedic period is also called because the other Vedas were composed between this period. That means 1000 to 500 BC. And the later Vedic period is also called the epic age because our two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, were composed during this period. So let us discuss about the sources. So the social, economic, political and the religious aspects of the life of the Aryans came to be reflected in the Vedic literature. So that is why Vedas became the storehouse of knowledge regarding the Aryans. So the Vedic literature was written in Sanskrit, and the Veda has been derived from our Sanskrit word Ved, V-I-D, Ved, that means Gyan or knowledge. Next is the Vedic literature is divided into two parts. Namely, one is Shruti, another one Sriti. So Shruti was revealed to the sages by the gods, and then sages passed from one generation to another generation orally. Next, Sriti, which is Sriti literature, were actually composed by the rishis. Why rishis? So this is a very, very important question. Distinguish between Shruti and Sriti. Now next, the Vedic literature can be classified in various categories. Like number one, the Vedas and the Samhitas. Next, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. And then we will discuss the allied Vedas. So first, we will see the Vedas. There are how many Vedas? Four Vedas. Rig Veda, Samaveda, Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. So first is Rig Veda. It is the oldest religious text in the world, and therefore it is known as the first testament of mankind. Rig Veda is that is why known as the first testaments of mankind, and it is divided into 10 mandalas, and it is said to have been composed during the early Vedic period that I already mentioned. Next is they were actually passed this hymns of the Rig Vedas actually passed from one generation to another generation orally from teachers to their disciples. Next is the Rig Vedas hymns are actually authentic sources of knowledge of life of the people of the time. Next is but much of the Indian philosophy is based on this Rig Veda, and it is also contained the famous Gayatri mantras, and although religious in nature and the Vedas are the valuable source of information on the various subjects. Now next, Samaveda. Sama, that means sweet song or the melody. And in the Vedas, some of the hymns are actually taken from or borrowed from the Rig Veda. And these hymns were meant to be sung at the time of the sacrifice by the priest. Next is third Veda. That means Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda, it deals with the hymns recited during the performance of yajnas. Next is number 4. Number 4 is Atharva Veda. The hymns contain in this Veda that deal with the magic and the charms. So Atharva Veda's hymns deal with the magic and charms. Not only that, most of the hymns are this Atharva Vedas, most of the hymns were actually taken from the Rig Veda. And next is the beside the powers of spirit, and the hymns deal with Gyan, Karma, as well as Upasanas. Now, next we will discuss Brahmanas. Well, these Brahmanas were written after the Vedas, and these are the simple commentaries of Vedas, and these are in prose form. These are in prose form, and they explain the social and the religious importance of the rituals as well as the value of sacrifices. And the Brahmanas have a great historical value. Now, next, Aranyakas. Aranyakas, the name is indicating what is this? This is popularly known as the forest books and written for especially the people, those who live were in forest, students and the hermits. Next is they form the concluding part of the Brahmanas, and as well as the main themes of Aranyakas is two important things. One is the mystical or mysticism, and another one the philosophy. These are the two main themes of Aranyakas. Next, Upanishads. But they are the philosophical commentary. They are the philosophical commentaries on the Vedas, and the doctrines such as the karma, moksha and maya are explained in detail in Upanishads. And Upanishads form the basic source of Indian philosophy, and these are composed by the different sages. Now, next we will discuss the allied Vedas. Allied Vedas. There are 6 allied Vedas or Vedic literature. Number one is the Vedangas. Number 1, Vedangas, which they deal with the ways to which the Vedas ought to be chanted and are thus important in understanding of the understanding of the Vedas. Which the 6 Vedangas deal with the pronunciation, grammar, etymology, then metrics as well as astronomy. Now next, Upavedas. Upavedas, which as the name suggests, they are the subsidiary Vedas. How many Upavedas are there? There are 4 Upavedas. Ayurveda, Gandharva Veda, Silpa Veda, and another one is Dhanur Veda. So Ayurveda deal with medicine, then Dhanurveda deal with the tactics of warfare, then Gandharva Veda deal with the art of music, and Silpa Veda deal with the art and architecture. Next, the sutras, which they are divided into three groups: Shruta Sutras, Griha Sutras, and Dharma Sutras. So first is Sutta Sutras. Sutta Sutras which deal with yajnas and the sacrifices, Griha Sutras or Smata Sutras that deal with the ceremonies connected with the family life, and last one, Dharma Sutra, that deal with the rules of conduct for the various classes as well as the various stages of life. So these are the three sutras. Number one, Sutta Sutras. Number two, Griha Sutras. Number three, Dharma Sutras. Now next is Darshanas, which there are six the schools of Indian philosophy and which are popularly known as Sad Darshanas, like Nyaya Darshana, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, then Purva Mimamsha, Uttar Mimamshas. Next is the Dharma Shastra, which is the law book that is called Dharma Sutras, and the Sritis together is known as Dharma Shastra. Sritis together with the commentaries are called Dharma Shastra. Now next is Ashtadhyayi. It was composed by the Panini and it related to the Sanskrit grammar and the how to use the word as well as the grammar. It's actually based on about related to Vyakaran or the grammar. Now next we will discuss about the epic, the second literary source, that is epics. But the epic, the two epics that I already mentioned, Ramayana and Mahabharatas, are also provide us the information about the Aryan or the Vedic period. So this story I will not gonna discuss because story more or less everyone. I just want to say who composed the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Ramayana was composed by Valmiki in Sanskrit. So what was the story? Well, the story of Ramayana revolves around the Rama and the abduction of Sita by a Devan king Ravana. Next is another one, epic is Mahabharata. But Mahabharata, it is believed to be the work of the sages Vyasa or Vyasdev. That was also composed in Sanskrit language. But the Mahabharata is also written in Sanskrit language. But originally it was actually called Jaya, or the story of collecting, dealing with the victory. And subsequently it came to be known as Bharata because it contained the story of a tribes or stories of the descendants of the earliest tribes Bharata, and later on it was actually came to be known as Mahabharata. Now next is Bhagavad Gita. But the Bhagavad Gita which forms an important parts of Mahabharata, and it was one of the important and popular religious text, and it's considered as a sacred by many people in India. So whenever the interest conflict with the duties, whenever the self-interest conflict with the duties, then Bhagavad Gita give the answer of the questions, all types of questions. Now next is Mahabharata also elaborate the immortality of Bhagavad Gita also elaborate the immortality of soul. Now, next we will see the importance of the epics. Number one, but the epics serve as the main source of information on the political institutions and the social and the cultural organizations of the epic age. Number two, they provide the information about the various Aryan kingdom, their armies, as well as the weapon used by them. Next, number three, the epics are considered the finest literary works at that time. Next is number four, they reveals the high ideals of the life of the Aryans. Number five, Bhagavad Gita elaborate the karma and philosophy as well as the immortality of soul. So this is the literary sources which actually provide us the information about the Vedic period. Now we will discuss about the archaeological sources. But the archaeological sources, the available archaeological sources of the period include iron implements and the tools and the remaining potteries. So we will basically discuss the iron artifacts and the pottery. So first is iron artifact. With the discovery of iron, that marks an important change in the history of the Indians as well as the Aryans. But in India, the Iron Age started from 1000 BC and the village farming communities were dispersed. They spread in the larger parts of India from Gangetic Plains to the peninsular India. So next is the iron was the harder metal than the copper as well as bronze, and it was also cheaper at that time and available plenty. So Aryans used iron in different purposes. Here we will discuss the purposes agriculture, then occupations, and number three is defense. So first is agriculture. With the discovery of iron gave the Aryans a new implements like the access to clear the forest and cultivate the lands, and thus agriculture became major or the important occupations of the Aryan. And with the use of iron plow, heads, sickles, hoes, they bring vast tracts of land under cultivation, and they produce more rice, wheat, barley, vegetables, etc., etc. Next we will discuss about the occupations. But the use of iron gave the new trade by providing durable implements like saw, chisel, hammers, tongs, etc. And these kinds of things gave introduced the new occupations like weaving, spinning, carpentry, tanning, etc. Next is defense. Defense, due to the iron was available plenty, cheap as well as harder metal. So that is why they used in defense purpose. They made a different kinds of weapons like shield, armor, swords, etc. Now, second archaeological source, that is pottery. So the pottery form an important source of information. There was three types of pottery: GW, graveware; PGW, painted graveware; and number three, NBPW, that means northern black polished ware. So first, the graveware and the PGW, painted graveware, discovered at different sites in Punjab, Haryana, and is believed to belong to the early Vedic period or Rig Vedic period, because the places and the time which mentioned in Rig Veda, this potteries were belong to the same places and during the same time. Now we will see some of the characteristics of or the features of the PGW ware or painted grey ware pottery. Number one, the PGW is very fine and smooth as well as even colored pottery. Next is number two, it was made out of a well worked high quality of clay with the geometrical design. Number three, the floral pattern, sun symbols are seen in some cases. And number four, the potteries that include the open mouth bowls and the dishes. Next, we will discuss the NBPW, that means Northern Black Polished Ware, and it was believed that the NBPW followed just after the PGW, and it associated with 700 BC. And this NBPW potteries were well finished and these are glossy as well as shining. And it was believed that this pottery might be used by the people, those who dominate the society as well as the economy. Now, next we will discuss about the society. So, in the Rig Vedic time or early Vedic period, the Aryans lived in villages and the family was the fundamental unit of the society. And it was believed that the society was at that time patriarchal. It means that the head of the family was the eldest male member or oldest male member. So he was called the Grihapati or Kulapati. If the oldest male member died, then responsibility comes to the eldest son. Next is, so few families together form a village, and the head of a village was called a Gramani, or village also called the Grama. Then some villages together or Gramas together form a Vish, and the head of a Vish was called Vishyapati. Next, some Vish together form a Jana or tribe, and the head of Jana is called Rajan or the king. So the king governed with the help of some of the officials or the ministers. Like important officers included Gramani, Purohita and Senapati. So you know the Purohita, he was associated with the religious activities, and the Gramani, he looked after the village administration, and Senapati, he was the head of the army. Next, the king did not maintain any regular army in early Vedic period. Why? Because whenever the king required army, the tribes served as a soldier. The tribal people served as a soldier. Next is during Rig Vedic time, the tribe elect a leader of its own, and he was not as powerful as the king in later Vedic period. Next is in early Vedic period, the king was assisted by three assemblies: Vidata, Sava, and Samiti. Vidata, Sava, and Samiti. First is Vidata. Vidata was earliest assembly and which used to perform all kinds of functions, that means economic, military, religious as well as social, and women were actually actively participated in the deliberations of or in the Vidata. Next is Samiti. Samiti was actually the assembly that open to all, that means for everyone. Next, Sabha was the council that was only for the some elders, which is Sabha was the important assembly at that time, and that deal with the advisory and the judicial functions, and Samiti met occasionally or seasonally. Next is in later Vedic period, the kingship became hereditary, as well as king also believed in divine power. Not only that, as well as the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata, they lost their earlier importance. Now, these associations were actually dominated by the chief and the rich nobles, and the women were no longer permitted to attend these assemblies in later Vedic period. Next, we will discuss the position of women in early Vedic and later Vedic period. Early Vedic and the later Vedic period. In early Vedic period, women were respected. Not only that, now we will see the point wise the positions of the women in early Vedic period and later Vedic period. So number one, in early Vedic period, women were respected. Number two, the institution of marriage had become a very much sacred in early Vedic period. Number three, the daughters were given the freedom to choose their husband through Sayambara. Next is number four. Child marriage was not existed in early Vedic period. Number four, women were allowed to participate in yajnas and sacrifice. Number five, they were allowed to study. Next is number six. Number six, widow remarriage was prevalent in early Vedic period. Next is later Vedic period. First point, decline of the position of women. Number two, women were not allowed to choose their husband. Number three, they were no longer to participate in yajnas. Number four, child marriage was existed. Number five, they were not encouraged to for the religious studies, etc. So these are the positions of women in Vedic period. So if question come in exam, write the position of woman. Only write the position of woman in Vedic period. So you have to write both early Vedic period as well as later Vedic period. If question comes separately, write the positions of women in early Vedic period, then no problem. You will just write only the early Vedic period, the status of women. So now next we'll discuss the class division. Class divisions of the Aryans or the early Vedic periods as well as the later Vedic period. But the caste system is not mentioned in the Rig Veda. But the fact remains that there was a one kind of class divisions in the society. The early Aryans actually called the local inhabitants as a dasyas, dasas or dasyus. And there was a constant war against each other. So at that time, the priest, tribal chief and the priest managed a large share of booty, and that grew the cost of their kingship. So this result in social inequalities. The tribal society got divided into normally three classes. Number one, the warriors. Number two, priest. And number three, people. But the fourth division was called Shudras. So Shudras appeared towards the end of the Rig Vedic period because the word Shudra mentioned in the 10th mandala. The Rig Veda was divided into 10 mandala. So last mandala. But however, since the economy was mainly the pastoral and not food producing, so that is why there was no tax collecting, regular tributes, etc., etc. But in early Vedic period, the society divided into different classes, based into four classes based on the occupations: Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. So first is Brahmin. The name is indicating Brahmins, those who are associated with the religious activities as well as yajnas, sacrifices, all these functions. Next is Kshatriyas. They were the warriors. They are associated with the war, etc. Next is Vaishyas. They are normally the traders, artisans, craftsmen, etc. And next, Shudras. These are the upper three classes. Now next is, as the started earlier, so during the later Vedic period, this caste system became very much rigid. That means if you born in a one caste, that means a Shudra family, so you cannot change your caste anytime. Throughout the year, throughout the life, you have to be a Shudra. But in early Vedic period, the caste system was actually flexible. That means suppose you were Shudra, but later by change your profession, you can change your class also. But that chance was actually abolished from later Vedic period. So in later Vedic period, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas enjoyed a very much power as well as the privileges, and the priest came to be considered as the gods on earth or god representative on earth, and Kshatriyas also increased their power and came to be regarded as the ruling classes. So all the higher varnas were actually entitled to Upanayanas. What was Upanayanas? Upanayanas was actually the invest teachers with the sacred thread according to the Vedic mantras. So intercaste marriage was also not prevalent during the later Vedic period. Next we will discuss about the four ashramas. So in early Vedic period, man grew up according to the family tradition, but however in later Vedic period, the whole lifespans of the Aryans were divided into four stages, and stages were actually called the ashramas. So there was four ashramas. Individual life was considered the 100 years. So 100 years divided into four stages, that means each stage consists 25 years. So there was four stages: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. So first is brahmacharya. So brahmacharya is lasted up to 25 years, and during this period the people was expected to acquire knowledge in the Gurukul and observe strict discipline. Next is number 2, grihastha. This period the man was supposed to marry and raise a family, and as a householder he was to take responsibility of maintaining the family, and this period lasted up to 25 to 50 years. Next is third is Vanaprastha. So this third stage was Vanaprastha ashrama, and it lasted from 50 to 75 years, and during this period man was expected to retire from worldly life and acquire a spiritual and philosophical knowledge. And the last stage of the human life during the later Vedic period was sannyasa, and that was from 75 to 100 years, and this was the period of renunciations, and man had to leave everything forever and go into meditation in order to attain moksha or salvation. That's it. So today's part. Next part we will discuss next video next week.